Okay, hi 1C. It's Professor Tyberg. I hope you're having a good day. I just wanted to jump into a brief introduction of Albert Camus' The Plague, published in 1947, and I wanted to talk about settings. So here we go, paragraph by paragraph. So the unusual events described in this chronicle occurred in 1940 at Oran. So we know the time, 1940s. Makes us think maybe of World War II. We're not sure if that's going to have a bearing on the plot later in the novel. The place, a large French port on the Algerian coast. So you can see on the map here where Oran is. It's across from Spain, and Algeria is a country that was colonized by the French between 1830 and 1962. So there's some brief historical background for you. It's going to be interesting to see the tension and negotiation between these two cultures, the Western European culture and the North African cultures. How to conjure up a picture, for instance, of a town without pigeons, without any trees or gardens, where you never hear the beat of wings or the rustle of leaves, a thoroughly negative place, in short. It's hilarious the way that the narrator criticizes this town and calls it ugly. He says it's devoid of life, no birds, no trees. He defines it negatively by what it lacks rather than what it has. Okay. And as for the people, the narrator writes, our citizens work hard, but solely with the object of getting rich. So he criticizes these people as just single-mindedly pursuing money. Then he generalizes that idea to all the people at this time in the 1940s. Really, all our contemporaries are much the same. So the narrator seems dissatisfied with the state of the world. Oran, however, seems to be a town without intimations. In other words, completely modern. The narrator criticizes modernity as having this trait of people who pursue empty capitalism. At Oran, as elsewhere, for lack of time and thinking, people have to love one another without knowing much about it. The people of Oran are alienated from their own consciousnesses. They don't truly experience how they're feeling or why they're feeling certain things. They just act. Okay, the narrator introduces the theme of death, but at Oran, the violent extremes of temperature, the exigencies of business, the uninspiring surroundings, the sudden nightfalls, and the very nature of its pleasures call for good health. An invalid feels out of it there. So it's not a good place to be sick, because if the definition of life in Oran is to pursue money, and you are too sick to pursue money, you will not be able to participate in life there. So these people seem complacent, but at least social unrest is quite unknown among us. This seems like an ironic statement. It's very surprising that there would be no social unrest based on the fact that this town has been colonized by the French. It seems like there would be some tension between the colonizers and the colonized in Oran. The narrator talks about the natural landscape and personifies it. He explains, all we may regret is the town's being so disposed that it turns its back to the bay, with the result that it's impossible to see the sea. You always have to go to look for it. So this town is turned away from the sea. It's turned away from beauty, and the people in it are turned away from beauty. The narrator suggests that in order to find beauty, you must be intentional. You must go look for it. Okay, some foreshadowing. Such being the normal life of Oran, it will be easily understood that our fellow citizens had not the faintest reason to apprehend the incidents that took place in the spring of the year in question. So because these people are so complacent, they will be particularly vulnerable to the strike of the plague that's going to hit them. And then the narrator ends by talking about the act of narration. So this is a meta-literary moment. In any case, the narrator, whose identity will be made known in due course, would have little claim to competence for a task like this, had he not been, by the force of things, closely involved in all that he proposes to narrate. There's a bit of a mystery. We don't know who this narrator is. But the narrator claims that he is involved in everything that happens. So he's going to be a credible source. And it makes us think about history, recording history, and sort of the myth of recording history perfectly. All right. So that's it for this chapter. I just want to leave you with the idea that you should think about why Camus chooses to set up his novel in this way. Why all the criticism of Oran and its people. All right, have a good day.